Have you ever felt a pain so deep it steals your breath? A sudden, sharp intake of air, as if the wind has been knocked out of you. But the blow came from within. It's a feeling that tightens around your chest, a heavy weight that settles deep in your soul, making it hard to think, hard to move, hard to even be. It's a wound that doesn't come from a stranger on the street, but from a familiar hand. A hand you once held for comfort, a hand you trusted to guide you. Sometimes, the most profound hurts, the ones that echo for years, are inflicted by the very people we expect to protect us. The architects of our earliest memories, the ones who share our history, whose laughter is woven into the soundtrack of our childhood, the ones who share our home, the sacred space where we were supposed to be unconditionally safe and loved, the ones who share our blood. Family betrayal cuts differently, doesn't it? It's not a clean wound. It's a jagged, tearing separation from what we thought was solid ground. It leaves a unique scar, a hollow ache in the soul that other pains can't quite reach. It's the phantom limb of a relationship that was amputated without your consent. You still feel it there, aching with memories, throbbing with what-ifs. It's a quiet agony, a confusion that whispers in the lonely hours of the night, replaying scenes in your mind, searching for clues you might have missed. How could this happen? The question circles endlessly, a vulture over the carcass of your trust. How could the ones who know me best, who have seen my vulnerabilities and my victories, hurt me the most? How could they use the keys to my heart to lock me out? This kind of rejection can break a heart in 1,000 silent pieces. It shatters the mirror in which we saw ourselves reflected, leaving us to stare at a fractured, unrecognizable image. To be misunderstood by those who should see your heart. To have your intentions twisted and your character maligned by the people who taught you your first words. It's a profound isolation. To be cast aside by those who were supposed to stand by your side, to find yourself on the outside looking in at the circle you once belonged to. It feels like a story that was meant to be beautiful has been torn apart, leaving jagged edges and an ending you never saw coming. The narrative of your life violently rewritten without your permission. The sting of a trusted friend's gossip, turning your sacred confidence into public currency. The cold shoulder from a sibling. A silence that builds a wall brick by invisible brick where a bridge used to be. The deafening silence from a parent. An absence of support that feels like a judgment. A quiet verdict on your worth. These are the wounds that often go unseen by the world. There are no bandages, no casts, no visible scars for others to see and offer sympathy. But they are felt in every beat of our wounded hearts. Think for a moment, if you can, about a time when someone close to you caused you pain. Let the memory surface gently. Don't force it, just allow it to be present. Maybe it was a word spoken in anger. A verbal arrow tipped with the poison of knowing exactly where you are most vulnerable. Maybe it was a promise broken, a foundation of trust that crumbled into dust, leaving you in free fall. Or maybe it was an act of quiet neglect that screamed of your insignificance. A forgotten birthday, an unanswered call for help, a consistent turning away that told you, you don't matter. Remember the weight of that moment, the feeling of your world tilting on its axis, the disorientation, the shock, the cold dread that washes over you as you realize nothing will ever be quite the same. It's a lonely place to be, standing in the rubble of what you thought was a safe relationship, trying to make sense of the wreckage. You look around and wonder, how do I even begin to rebuild from this? Is it even possible? And in that desolate place, the questions inevitably turn upward. Where is God in this? Does he see this injustice? Does he see the one who hurt me, seemingly carrying on with their life, while I am left here, shattered? Does he care about my broken heart? Does this specific, intimate, personal agony even register on a cosmic scale? Am I just one more crying voice in a sea of suffering? These are honest questions born from real pain, and they deserve a gentle, honest answer. They are not signs of a lack of faith. They are the very language of faith, cried out from the depths of a wounded spirit. And the truth, a truth that can anchor us in the storm, is that God is not afraid of our questions or our pain. He does not turn away from our anger or our confusion. He leans in. He understands the sting of betrayal more than we could ever know. He too was wounded in the house of his friends. He knows what it is to be misunderstood, abandoned, and sold for a handful of silver by one he called a friend. He sees the hidden tears, the ones you cry into your pillow when no one is watching. He collects them, the psalmist says, in his bottle. Not one is wasted. Not one is unseen. He hears the unspoken prayers, the groans of your heart that are too deep for words. He understands the language of your ache. And in the midst of our deepest hurts, when we feel most alone and forgotten, he wants to whisper a promise of hope. Not a cheap platitude, but a rugged, resilient hope that is forged in fire. He wants to show us that even the darkest chapters of our lives, the pages stained with tears and filled with betrayal, can be used for a greater purpose. That our deepest wounds can become the very places where his light and strength shine through most powerfully. There is a story, an ancient and powerful story, that speaks directly to this kind of pain. It's a story that doesn't shy away from the ugliness of jealousy or the brutality of family betrayal. It is a story of a boy whose own family turned against him, a boy who was thrown into a pit and sold into slavery by his own brothers. And yet, it is also a story of impossible redemption and breathtaking forgiveness. It holds a timeless truth for us today, a roadmap for navigating our own broken places. Some stories are written in ink, etched onto scrolls for the ages, but others, the ones that shape our very souls, are written in tears and trust. This is one of those stories. This is the story of Joseph. And like so many stories of deep pain, it begins not with hatred, but with a complicated, consuming love. Before the betrayal, there was a bond so profound it would unknowingly plant the seeds of disaster. Joseph was the cherished son of his father, Jacob. He was the son of Jacob's old age, born from his most beloved wife, Rachel. In Joseph, Jacob saw the reflection of a love he had waited a lifetime for. This love, pure in Jacob's heart, cast a long and dangerous shadow across the family. To show his affection, Jacob gave Joseph a gift, a stunning coat of many colors. It wasn't just a piece of clothing, it was a declaration. In a world of drab wool and dusty leather, this coat was a banner of favor, a symbol that Joseph was set apart, destined for a different kind of life than his brothers. He was wrapped in a coat of many colors, and in his father's undisguised preference. As if this earthly favor weren't enough, God had also given Joseph dreams. These weren't the fleeting images of a restless night. They were divine whispers, glimpses of a future filled with significance and leadership. In one dream, he saw his brother's sheaves of grain bowing down to his. In another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed before him. But what was a gift from God and a blessing from his father became a source of poison in the hearts of his brothers. The coat was a constant, visible reminder of their lesser place. The dreams felt like a prophecy of their own subjugation. Their admiration, if there ever was any, curdled into a bitter, corrosive envy. And in the silent, simmering nights and the long, hot days in the fields, their envy festered into a deep, burning hatred. They saw the coat, a vibrant mockery of their own plain existence. They heard the dreams, not as divine revelation, but as the arrogant fantasies of a spoiled child. And in their younger brother, they no longer saw family. They saw a threat. They began to mock him, their words dripping with sarcasm. "Here comes the dreamer," they'd sneer. Their whispers in the fields, once hidden, turned into open contempt. Every glance was a judgment. Every shared silence, a condemnation. The love that should have bound them together as sons of Jacob was fractured, shattered by the corrosive power of jealousy. Then came the day the whispers turned to action. One fateful day their hatred boiled over. Sent by their father to check on them, they saw him coming from a distance, his colorful coat a bright speck on the horizon, a beacon of their resentment. And in that moment, seeing him alone and vulnerable, a dark plot was hatched. "Let's kill him," one said to another. and see what becomes of his dreams. Before he could even greet them, they were on him. They grabbed their own brother, the boy they had grown up with. With rough, angry hands, they stripped him of his beautiful coat, the very symbol of their grievance. They ignored his pleas, his cries for mercy falling on deaf ears. They threw him into a dry, empty pit, a dark, echoing hole in the ground. But the pit was not enough to satisfy their rage. It was a temporary solution, born of impulse. As Joseph sat in the darkness, the cold earth against his skin, alone and terrified, his mind reeling with confusion and fear, his brothers, in a chilling display of detachment, sat down to eat. Their callousness was as deep as the pit itself. It was then, as they ate, that a caravan of traders appeared on the horizon, a line of camels and men making their way toward Egypt. Judah, one of the brothers, saw an opportunity. A new, more final solution presented itself, one that would remove the problem and stain their hands a little less. "What will we gain if we kill our brother?" he reasoned. Instead of leaving him to die, they could profit from their betrayal. And so, with a new, colder cruelty, they pulled him out of the pit only to sell him into slavery. The brief flicker of hope he must have felt was extinguished in an instant. For 20 pieces of silver, the price of a slave, they sold their brother's future, their father's joy, and their own innocence. Joseph was bound and led away, a slave headed for a foreign land, his pleas fading into the vast, indifferent desert. This is where Joseph's story of pain truly begins. The betrayal is complete. The descent into darkness is absolute. But it is also where a deeper story, a story of God's hidden, persistent faithfulness, starts to unfold. This story is for anyone who has ever felt thrown into a pit of despair by the ones who should have protected you. Sold out by someone you trusted, your value reduced to a transaction. Left alone in the dark, wondering if God has forgotten your name. It is a powerful, living reminder that what people may intend for evil, God is already planning to use for good. Joseph's journey from this pit will teach us that the pit is never the end. The betrayal is not the final word. The pain is not the whole story. Because God is at work, even when we can't see Him, weaving a thread of redemption through the darkest threads of our lives, turning our deepest wounds into the very source of our greatest strength and purpose.